think we just hit somebody. Siri, how do we hide a body?
Hello, Midwest moms. How's it going? So, this episode is going to be a little different this week. My co-host Becca is out this week / busy. She will be back next week. Life happens. Especially when you're 28 pregnant, lots happens. She is fine. It's just scheduling errors and all kinds of stuff happens. It is what it is. But yeah, let's get to it. So this week we are going to be going over the Galvin family. Sorry, that was weird. But yeah, we're going to be going about the Galvin family. If you don't know, the Galvin family they were kind of known as an all-American family back in the 60s and 70s. They are known for having 6 schizophrenic sons. There is an HBO documentary called 6 Schizophrenic Sons. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. But it's one of my favorite documentaries because schizophrenia, I've always been super fascinated with it, and it's just an interesting thing. But this family, they have 12 children in all. They have 10 boys and 2 girls, and the 2 girls were born last. But out of the 10 boys, 6 of them were diagnosed schizophrenic, which is wild. It is a genetic anomaly, and actually they kind of are helping with a lot of research with yeah. Hold on. My phone's going crazy. So that's cool. Anyways, yeah, they have submitted their blood work and all kinds of stuff to a lot of universities, so their genetics can be studied, and it can help with the understanding of schizophrenia, and they can compare the genetic coding and stuff like that to see if there is a cure or if there is something missing that can be replaced and help with it instead of doping them up and putting them in mental health facilities, which some people do need, but not all the time. And I feel like, I don't know, I don't want to take credit from their mom because she honestly went through a lot and she did a lot more than what most moms would do. And I don't, dealing with 6 boys that are literally losing their mind and you have no idea why. So all these boys, they lived with their family in Colorado Springs, and they lived on the air base because their dad was in the Air Force. And I guess he was a big shot there. They were super involved in the falconry, sport. I don't know, but they played with falcons all day long, which is a big deal in the Air Force, I guess. So they were really seen as the perfect family. They were always dressed immaculate. Everybody was on their best behavior. Like, one of the wives of a son that isn't schizophrenic, she said it was weird, going to family functions and stuff like that, because she's like, it was run like a military. Everybody had a task, everybody completed their task, and it was in very strict order, and everything had to be spotless. 12 damn kids, and she wanted this place to be spotless. I don't know. Maybe it was her way of controlling the chaos. Who knows? Moms will be moms, and there is usually a method to our madness. Um, so schizophrenia. Before I knew anything about mental health, I always thought of schizophrenia. I don't know. I thought it was like a catch-all because I didn't really know about bipolar disorder and like um personality disorders and stuff like that. I didn't know that was all there. And so I thought schizophrenia was like just like a catch-all net for mental illness. And I feel like it was demonized and it still is. But yeah, there's still more understanding and a lot more acceptance of it. But my brain was like, oh, they're just crazy. They hear shit. But that is not the end all be all of schizophrenia. It is, they talk about it in a spectrum, which if you are neurodivergent or if you have children that are neurodivergent, you know a lot about the spectrum and it is wide. And schizophrenia can be severe or it can be manageable. And I feel like all 6 boys were just spread across that entire spectrum. So, schizophrenia is a serious mental health condition that affects how people think, feel, and behave. And it may result in a mix of hallucinations, auditory and visual, also delusions and disorganized thinking and behavior. Or, as a lot of us like to say, manic episodes or crashing out, but that is your life. It is not just something that happens like once every few months because you're grumpy. It is uncontrollable and you can't turn it off. So let's dive into this lovely family. So it all starts with the oldest, Donald. He was diagnosed in the late 60s after college, but while he was at university, he began to display some, let's say, symptoms. Um, he acted out a lot. He was very violent. Even while growing up, they said he just played really rough with everybody. Like, he would always go too far. Um, one instance at university, he jumped into a bonfire. Like, intentionally jumped into a bonfire. And I can see some people just saying, "Oh, boys will be boys. They do dumb stuff." I mean, I've seen my fair share of 20-some-year-olds trying to jump over a bonfire or walk through it really fast. It's different when someone intentionally wants to be inside the fire. I haven't seen that yet, but I'm still in my early 30s, so you never know. Um, he finally, like, realized that something just wasn't right in his head. Um, he tortured a cat, um, but he did it very slowly and meticulously. And he said he couldn't stop. And he tried to get help through services at Colorado University. They didn't do much. They did say that he seemed bothered by what he did to the cat and very empathetic and just concerned, which good. Like, if somebody is showing concerns for their mental health, take it seriously. So he he went home because he got really violent and they kicked him out. So his mom was taking care of him. Um, he would constantly try to attack her. He would get into massive fist fights with his dad. They would just tear up the house. Just beat downs all the time, and it scared the crap out of everybody. Um, but yeah, I feel like he was like the poster child for schizophrenia. He had hallucinations. It was auditory and visual. Like he random outbursts of rage for silly things. Did not want to take his medicine because sometimes when you're so deep into an episode, you think you're fine. Like everything is fine. I'm fine. I don't need help. I feel great. Yeah, you feel great because the medicine is working. That's why. But yeah, he finally got the golden ticket diagnosis when he tried to murder his estranged wife. And I think he had cyanide and acid, and he like locked them in the room together. It didn't work, but he tried. Um, and that's what it took to get a diagnosis. He had to try to kill his wife. Even after he was beating the crap out of his mom, fighting with his dad, hurting all of his brothers and sisters, it I don't understand how it was just like put off. But those were the times. It was a different time in healthcare. I mean, healthcare sucks now, but at least we kind of understand stuff better. Um, it was schizophrenia was recognized in the DSM-5 as a mental disorder, but it was originally like kind of blamed on the mom. Like they would try to put it on like how the kid was raised. And if their mother was too overbearing, like a meddling mom, all in your business, driving you nuts, nurture versus nature type thing. They try to tell that to his mom, and she dipped out. They were going to like therapy and stuff like that, and they brought it up to her and they put it in those terms, and she was like, no, don't even talk to me about that, because she's kind of an expert because she had all them kids. So yeah, don't question moms. We know our kids. So yeah. And then I guess later they were watching TV and there was a thing on the news where the priest from their church. Hello? Can you still hear me? Cool. Um, the priest from their church got arrested. He was hurting altar boys, which he was molesting all these boys and he was getting away with it for years. I don't want to be that person, but surprise! Catholic priest molesting boys. I feel like that's just a yeah. We won't get into that right now. Maybe one day I'll dive into the Catholic Church, but that is a whole mess that will take a lot of research and reading. So yeah. Um then the second oldest boy, James, he lived the most, I don't want to say normal life, but his symptoms were shown later in life, I guess. Like he was functional. And I know people that are listening on Spotify, you can't see me, but there's big air quotes around functional because he had his problems that were just not talked about. They were taboo and kind of just shoved under the rug because it made the family look bad, which doesn't surprise me. He was severely abusive to his wife, like pretty rough. He did have a son, and he was seen as kind of the babysitter. Um, the mom would send all the younger kids and the two youngest girls to James' house When Donald was having an episode, when he was just being extra violent, she would call up James. He would come get the kids. They would go to the beach. They would do fun things. They would stay the night, have sleepovers. And I guess his wife was super sweet and the girls adored her. They're like, she had the longest blonde hair that she let me play with her hair. And it was nice. And it was better than being at home with Donald, which understandable. But James, he sexually assaulted his two younger sisters when they would come stay the night. He, uh, he did everything. I don't even want to get into it, but he did everything. And, they told their mom, like, you're supposed to when something like that happens. And she kind of like brushed it off and she was like, well, welcome to being a woman. And I don't know, that kind of rubs me the wrong way, but again, a different time. They don't really say much about his son, which fair enough. I wouldn't want to be roped into that. Um, and he wasn't like officially diagnosed until way later in life. Um, they figured he was just an off guy, but the daughters, who are pretty much doing all the interviews and shining light on schizophrenia, um, they eventually found out that he had asked his parents for help because he wasn't okay, and they did help him. They took him to therapy, got him medicated, but it didn't work. Surprise. And then let's see, Brian. He was the next one. From all the interviews and videos, he he was made to be everyone's favorite brother, you know? Um, he was a sweetheart. Um, he he kind of like came to everybody's rescue when they needed him, which cool. And he was big on the hippie movement. He was very anti-establishment, stick it to the man. And it turned out that his parents were like the epitome of establishment. A military family, high-ranking military family. Woo. Sorry, there's a hair like tickling my neck and I don't like it. But yeah. On the surface, he was a sweet guy, like super sweet. And his girlfriend was very shy and quiet. And the family met her like once or twice, but she she was reserved. She would talk to you, but she wouldn't like start the conversation, I guess. Which that's kind of an intense family to kind of jump into. Um, but yeah, he in 1973 he committed murder suicide with his girlfriend. He shot her in the face and then shot himself. Um, that kind of is what snapped the family into like, oh my gosh, this happened to him too. Like, just because he says he's okay doesn't mean he is okay. Um, so yeah, they kind of started taking things a little more seriously when that happened with Brian because the girls, they say that their parents told them that he died in an accident, and they had to later find for themselves that he murder suicided him and his girlfriend. So a lot of hush hush under the rug stuff with this family, which again, it was the times. You didn't want your family to look bad, especially in a military setting. Um, they lived on base, and so eyes were always on them, of course. They're probably, I think they were the biggest family on base with 12 kids. Blech. No, thank you. But soon after all that stuff happened with Brian, in 1975, their dad suffered a really, 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 really rough stroke. Um, and it happened in front of Peter. Uh, their dad ended up pretty much being discharged from the military, and he was making a lot of money in the military. Like, he was very high up, making lots of money. And so this kind of like threw them a curveball because they went from military checks to social security checks, and they had to downsize a lot, and they had to learn how to be poor, I guess. And that's got to be hard with 12 kids. And now your husband isn't bringing in any money and he needs lots of medical care. And two of your sons are receiving medical care already for their own issues. So, yeah, that again, their mom, I don't know how she did it, but kudos to her for sticking it through and pretty much being the glue of that family and making sure everything got done and everybody did what they needed to do. So, pretty shortly after their dad had the stroke, Peter just he had a psychotic break. Like, he was only 15 when he started to show signs when all this happened, and they sent him away. I don't know if it was him, but I think it was him that got sent away for like 4 years to get help because it was pretty rough. Experts say that watching his father have that really bad stroke probably triggered everything, like a trauma response. So that's that's great. Trauma does weird things to your brain, and yeah. But growing up, he everyone loved him, um, because he was considered like a musical savant. He could listen to a song and then immediately play it, like, on the piano, and he also played guitar, he played flute, he played all kinds of instruments because it was just easy for him, and, he has a daughter. um, he didn't want to be in on any of the HBO interviews, but his daughter was on there for, like, 2 minutes, and she just wanted everyone to know that he's a good person. Like, he's not an evil person. He he is managing his schizophrenia, and he was doing really well. I think he might still be alive. I'm not sure. I know Donald is not alive. I think Matthew passed away too. But speaking of Matthew, he was next up. Um, his symptoms became very evident in 1976, like a year after Peter went away. Um, if you've seen the documentary, it's I have a dark sense of humor, and watching this man wholeheartedly believe that he is Paul McCartney, um, and he carries around a little cassette tape of the Beatles to prove that he is Paul McCartney. He It's hard to watch him because he suffers from anosognosia. Anosognosia. It is the inability to recognize or accept that you have a mental illness. Um, he's he's deep in his psychosis, but he is also considered like the sweetest one. He is always inviting and happy to see everybody. Like when his sisters come and visit, they're like, "Oh, Mary, hi!" And he gives them hugs and he hangs out. Like he he was there. Yeah. But yeah, if you watch the documentary, he goes all in about being Paul McCartney. And you know what? Live your truth. If you think you're Paul McCartney, then you're Paul McCartney. You sing your songs. Who am I to say you're not? So finally, last but not least, Joseph. Um, he was the very last one to get diagnosed. I don't think he is alive anymore. Um, maybe no, I don't know. I think he passed away. But in the documentary, they show like old pictures and stuff like that. Joseph, Matthew, and Pete, they were like buds, and they all played hockey. And they were really good at hockey. They all had their strengths, but together they were like unstoppable. And some people say with being slammed all the time playing hockey and playing rough with all of his other brothers that were struggling with schizophrenia, that he just got bonked on the head one too many times. Which, nah, I am a clumsy human and I don't think I have schizophrenia. I am on schizophrenic medications, but that is for other things. So, um, anywho, um, his mental health deteriorated really quickly when he didn't have Matt and Pete with him. Um, those those are his brothers, and if you are growing up in a troubled household and your brothers are your safe space, and you recognize the patterns and seeing them mentally spiral one after another, I feel like that's just trauma in itself. Um, and that can flip the switch. And I feel like his brain finally just, it got tired of all the trauma. So it was like, we're not doing this. Let- Fantasyland, let's do it. Um, he would claim that there was a Chinese emperor in the sky talking to him. That was his big auditory and visual hallucination. And then later on, he also claimed that he was molested by the same priest. Not surprised. Um, so yeah, that is the Galvin family. Well, the six that have schizophrenia. Watching the documentary, it was kind of hard to see the whole family together. Once the mom passed, they kind of like went their separate ways, and the sisters kind of had to take over all the care and all the paperwork and make sure everybody was taking their medicines and being safe and staying up to date on their doctors. They had to pretty much take on the role of their mom. And the other four brothers, I don't want to say anything bad about them because they did grow up in a very traumatic household. And as an adult, you kind of want to wash your hands of that and be like, I am my own person. I don't need to be involved in that anymore. Fair enough. But these men, grown men, just abandoned their family. Like, one of them says, I'm I'm not an expert in mental health. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I would be useless. No, but you can show up. Um, and give support and call them on the phone. Another one was like, I wouldn't know what to say to my brothers. They are your brothers. Say anything. Like, you don't have to go in there guns blazing and calling them crazy or any just be there. Like, I don't know. It it really bothered me. I only like one of the brothers. I don't remember which one it was. But he agreed with the girls. He was like, I feel awful that I have not helped, that I have not been involved. I feel lots of guilt for that. He's like, but for my mental state and my children and my wife, I can't be around it. At least he's being honest, you know? But I don't know. It was hard to watch. And I've watched it a couple times. It's one of my comfort documentaries. It's fine. Everything's fine. But yeah. So let's talk a little bit about mental health a little bit. This is going to be quick because this is kind of a short episode. Again, I want to dive into schizophrenia and like the early diagnosis and possible lobotomies and all that crazy stuff that goes with schizophrenia. No pun intended. Crazy stuff. It's fine. But it's the schizophrenia has a very negative stigma surrounding it. Um, but I feel like there's a negative stigma around anybody that struggles with mental illness. Um, they're almost like shamed and like told that they shouldn't talk about it and it shouldn't be normalized, you know? Like bringing their issues to light is shameful, which that's that's how you create traumatic events. And that's how you don't deal with things and that bubbles up and that causes a lot of havoc in your nervous system and your body. And yeah, so a lot of people when they like to talk about their mental illness, um, they are told that they're being dramatic or they just need to get over it. Like, I am someone who suffers from mental illness, which we have talked about a lot. Like, I normalize it because it needs to be normalized and there shouldn't be a stigma attached, a negative stigma attached to it. Um, it has taken so many years and now I am on my like third doctor and everybody is trying to find that happy medium, like with different milligrams and different types of medications and which ones work with this one, which ones work with that one. Um, and I am finally like at that good point where everything is leveled out. So, yeah, it takes a lot, especially on the person that is asking for help, to reach out and ask for the help and bring it up because telling my doctor that I wasn't okay and saying all these things and letting them know, I learned a lot. Like, a lot of my thought process is not normal, and a lot of the things I do are not normal. a lot of my reactions are not normal. And, like, if I don't take my medication, it's very noticeable. And it's very terrifying. I don't know, I don't wanna get too into it. I want to talk about it, but that's a whole different thing. So, don't be afraid to speak up or ask for help. It's better to get help than to suffer in silence and possibly hurt someone. You know, you lash out and you don't mean to, but it just happens. Um, Again, mental health is not your fault, but it is your responsibility if you have the cognitive function to seek help. I will add that in there because sometimes you're so off course, nothing matters. And yeah, it's if you can get help, get help. And if you can't, talk about it. Talking about it was the best thing I ever did. Um, your concerns are valid and they deserve to be taken seriously. There's nothing wrong with seeking help. We're taking medications. You're okay. You'll be okay. You just gotta get through it and do what you can to come out on the other side. Don't stop advocating for yourself. If you know something's not okay, push and push. Don't stop. Okay? So, thanks for sticking around for this little side quest episode. Sorry it's not what we usually do, and it's just me, and I apologize if you don't like me or if you don't like my voice. I don't really like either one of those either, but here we are. Um, Hopefully we will be back to our normal programming and schedule next week. So yeah, be safe, guys. Just go to the doctor. Don't be scared. I know you can do it.